The Canon 80D is the equivalent of MySpace in this day and age of Netflix-approved hybrid cameras. But, I mean, MySpace was awesome in its day and age, and so was the Canon 80D, which was in fact a game changer for its time. Now, I say it all the time, but we passed the good enough for YouTube image quality barrier a long time ago. And because of that, it's time to find out, does the venerable 80D still stand up in 2020? Well, does it? Let's find out. I can do that because it's a DSLR and it's built like a tank. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. So the real question of today isn't just, is the 80D worth it this year? I mean, yes, it's literally the title, so that is the question. But the real overall question is it worth it to try and keep up with the cutting edge of imaging technology? Because that is expensive and it's not always practical to do. I mean, I get asked all of the time what cameras people should use, and a lot of the time the answer is something a year or 2 or 3 old. Cough, cough. GH5. So let's see if the 80D, which was and still is a hugely popular camera, retains a place in my recommendations list, despite it having a newer version / replacement on the market in the 90D. It's much easier to say. Before we do hop too far into the video, however, I would like to thank my friends over at B&H Photo for loaning me this 80D to make this series of videos on. Now, if you'd like to get your very own, like, rock solid tank of a camera, there will be links in the description below. Now, if you're new here, welcome. I break these videos down into 3 major categories: video quality, ease of use, and ecosystem. Those are the 3 main things that all cameras like. Those are what you should be judging your camera by if you're going to buy it for your own online video. So first up, let's talk that video quality. The EOS 80D has a 24 megapixel APS-C size sensor housed inside of this gigantic EF mount DSLR. We'll talk more about the body later. It's almost like we have a whole section on it. It can record up to 1080p at 60 frames per second and has Canon's very reliable dual pixel autofocus. Now, I might personally think that Sony's taking the lead in 2020. I mean, we are currently using 2 Sony cameras. I still only trust 2 companies for continuous video autofocus. You might be able to put 2 and 2 together and figure out that it's Canon and Sony. In a rarity though, among similarly priced cameras, this has both a smaller IPB codec and a much beefier all-I codec, giving you a little more flexibility in post. All footage that you see out of this thing in this video will be shot in 1080p MOV format, so I can get that all-I compression. One of the negatives, it doesn't have anything like C-Log or a log format, though unfortunately, you'll have to upgrade to the EOS R, the 5D Mark IV, or if you have like literal silver pockets, the 1DX Mark III. Though much like other DSLRs, it does not have any kind of in-body image stabilization, and unlike the current generation of DSLRs, it doesn't have Canon's electronic stabilization either. But how does the image quality hold up? I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't think it held up pretty darn well. I think it looks pretty darn good, especially for the price. I mean, you can get these used for dirt cheap these days, and I do recommend buying them used. I do personally record everything in 4K, but if you are good with 1080p, this is a phenomenal camera. And if we're being honest, if we're pulling the Band-Aid off in the Everyday Dad here, I'm probably wasting time and money and storage space to record everything in 4K, because I personally, I don't even watch YouTube in 4K. I watch everything in 1080p at best. Kinda ironic, right? What does matter though more about this camera is the colors look great, the image is nice and sharp, and while it doesn't have a huge amount of dynamic range, it's nothing like my S1H that has 14 plus stops of dynamic range. Thanks to it lacking a true log format or even being designed for that, you do get enough to make very usable videos. Again, we passed the level of good enough image quality for online video long ago, and it's more about the ease of use of getting that image that matters more. Hence why we have a whole section called ease of use that we'll talk about here in a minute. It's not perfect though, and one thing that I really don't like image quality wise from the 80D is this is a DSLR from before mirrorless started taking over, and some of those mirrorless features starting to bleed into the DSLR. So this has a real anachronism in it, in that you cannot get a clean HDMI out. So if you want a live streaming camera, I'd look elsewhere. Also, if you want to record externally on this with something like the Ninja V, you're gonna have to accept some info. Like some of the info on the display, you're just gonna have to accept that if you really just have to record externally. The other side of video quality is audio recording, and the 80D has the standard setup that higher end Canon cameras continue to field to this day. It's got a 3.5mm audio in and a 3.5mm headphone out, and that will let you monitor your audio in real time. The internal preamps, I mean, they're nothing to write home about. They're not bad, but they're not great. I mean, they work perfectly fine. You can raise and lower the internal gain through the menu interface. And while you won't get as clean of audio as you would from a Sony or Panasonic camera, much like the image quality, you'll get good enough. And coming from me, look, coming from me saying that something is good enough for audio is high praise because I judge audio much more harshly than technical image quality. Audio is way more important. You can also monitor the audio from the screen itself thanks to the addition of the gauge on the display. And if you were like me and you can't actually like monitor your audio in real time because you would look like a huge dork with headphones in while you're like making these videos, this is a nice way to make sure that you aren't blowing out your audience eardrums with your enthusiasm. That's my way of saying that sometimes I'm loud. I have to have audio devices that control my excitement. But let's talk about that pesky ease of use because we've established that the video quality in the 80D, it produces totally usable images. And here's where, I tweeted about this today, like right before we hit record. Here's where Canon hybrid stills cameras exceed over everything else on the market. And it makes me want to sell all my gear and go straight Canon every single time I get one of these things in the studio. These are the darned easiest cameras to use. They got the fully articulating touchscreen, which is a part of it. Being able to judge your framing and exposure and your audio while in front of the camera is just, yes, please. It sucks so much when you have a camera that doesn't let you do this. Like my A7 III right here doesn't. I have to rig up this whole system to get around that. But it's not just seeing yourself. It's actually being able to change the things in the camera while in front of it. So if you were like vlogging with the camera, it only takes a few taps to change the settings and get yourself back on track. And I cannot overstate like how much easier that is than having to get up, go around the camera, fix it, come, sit down, and just not ever being sure that you fixed it. I've been using Sony cameras a lot recently, and while I am a big fan, I wish they were this easy to use. A few taps if you need it, and you can totally save a shot that might have been recording erroneously. Like right now on the A6600, if I wanted to change anything, I couldn't just tap. I wish, please, everybody just have this. And not only that, that great dual pixel autofocus comes in and combines with all of those other features that it basically ensures that if the autofocus box is around your face, old tech here, so no eye detection in video, you will be in focus. And it's just, you can trust it, and that's what's awesome. And just to add, not even that, just to add a little cherry, to the top of this awesome sundae, the body, while much bigger than a mirrorless camera at the same price, is one of the best camera bodies ever made, and it's super simple to use and navigate. I definitely, if you add all of that up, I rate this as one of the easiest cameras to use, period. And I know I've already said this, but I love using these darn Canon cameras. I'll be sad to go back to my normal setup after this, but I like some of the things that I can get out of Sony lenses. One more thing I do want to say about the body is it's not as customizable as today's cameras, but this body does have all of the dials, buttons, and switches that you could hope for. If you're really into stills, some people are, I don't understand it either. You even have an LCD on the top that allows you to use this optically without needing the LCD if you are a DSLR purist. Unfortunately, this LCD screen doesn't work with video modes, but if you are recording video, you'll probably use the flip screen anyway, so I guess don't worry about it. And you know what? While we've got this, we're talking about how easy it is to use, we've talked about how good the image quality is, let's do a quick vlogging test to show that the old king of vlogging still has it in it. See you out there. Okay, and welcome to the vlogging test of the Canon 80D. So yeah, we have not used this camera in quite a while, but yeah, we've got this set to 1080p, 24 frames per second because I'm doing like this 24 frames per second test thing here on the channel. So yeah, we've got this set up. We do have it on like a little mini tripod thing. We've got the switch pod on, and you can see this is the image quality. It is the middle of the day, so it is very, very contrasty out here. But yeah, I've got a little microphone put on here. There is no stabilization on this camera, so if it looks stable, that's just because it's heavy and my shoulder's about to fall off. But yeah, one of the things I miss about Canon cameras, because I primarily use Panasonic and Sony cameras, but just how easy these darn things are to use is such a big benefit. Like I took this out of my camera bag and we were ready to go. Like we were rocking and rolling in seconds. It's just so good, so good. But yeah, I'm doing this for fun because this has clearly been proven as a vlogging camera. Now, does it have the best dynamic range? No. All of this highlight, I don't even know if you can tell that the sky is blue back there. So it's not gonna have like crazy dynamic range. There's no log profiles in here, but yeah, this is the vlogging test. Let's go into the sun. Let's go into the sun and see what happens. Oh, we're so bright. So we're not even in the sun yet. See, that's the sun. That's the sun over here. Oh, it's so bright. It's so bright. Yep, that's not working. Not working as well. Okay, back inside. And we're back, so it works great. Like I loved using this outside, I love using this in general. But DSLRs are dinosaurs, right? They're dying. DSLRs are dying. I see videos on YouTube all the time. That means it has to be true, right? So what happens if I buy one of these? Am I even able to buy accessories? Is there even an ecosystem for this camera left? Yes. There is absolutely an ecosystem. The EF lenses that this thing rocks are still the largest and most diverse amount of glass that you can find anywhere, period. I say Sony has the edge, but that's in mirrorless. When it comes to DSLR glass, nothing beats the EF mount. Plus, you can use some really unique and nice crop EFS lenses that still aren't really found in mirrorless systems today, like the Tokino wide angle 2.8s. Like, those are lenses that you can't find anywhere else. And you can use things like Canon's own website to find insane deals. Insane deals on refurbished first-party lenses. And there is always a nice selection of used glass on websites like B&H. Plus, as this is a much older camera, you can find third-party offerings for most of the major accessories you might want, such as battery grips, cages, etc. There is a very lively and very affordable ecosystem to build this up into. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Is the Canon 80D still worth buying when things like the 90D exist? Well, yes and no. If you were looking to buy a brand new camera, no, I wouldn't recommend spending $1,000 on a camera like this that's missing a few key features like 4K and clean HDMI out. I think the 90D is worth that extra $200 for those features. But if you can find an 80D in good shape used, then yes, I would absolutely recommend it. Like I said, image quality is more than usable, the ease of use is like no other, and to this day, it's still perfectly good for online video creation. And if you liked this video, you might be interested in checking out if another popular vlogging camera, the GoPro Hero 8 Black, is also still worth buying 6 months later. Click right up here, we'll click up on the light. I'll put the box right up here on the light. Click here to find out. Thanks for watching.